Alcibiades is a young Athenian in ancient Greece with a great desire for power. One day, he goes to see Socrates, his teacher, and tells him that he intends to enter the political arena. Alcibiades has many undeniable qualities. He is young, he comes from one of the richest families in Athens, he has studied in the best schools, but Socrates points out to him that he lacks something, a fundamental characteristic, self-awareness. The teacher therefore suggests that he work on his lack of self-awareness and adopt an attitude of openness toward knowing his own limitations. Not only that, he also gives him a warning. If you do not do this, if you do not develop this awareness, you will create discord in Athens and bring it to ruin. Alcibiades will not listen to Socrates' wise advice. He will not work on his own limits, and the master's fears will prove to be well-founded. After severely damaging the city, Alcibiades' behavior will lead to the trial of Socrates, who will eventually drink hemlock. The topic of this episode is so great that it seemed necessary to tiptoe into it a bit, starting with a story. Although it reaches way back in time, we are talking about characters who lived in 400 before Christ. The story of Alcibiades reveals dynamics in which all of us can recognize ourselves, because it deals with goals, skills, obstacles, mistakes, but also about something deeper, self-awareness. This is Getting to Know Us, a 4-part journey that looks past the surface and explores the values that guide us every day in our professional lives. Getting to Know Us is a podcast series by Cora Media, sponsored by Tessia Group. What do you want to be when you grow up? This is a question we have probably all been asked when we were little. And perhaps we now ask other children ourselves. Regardless of the answer, it is an interesting creative exercise because it allows you not only to imagine the profession you will do, but it can also initiate deeper reflections. What will you want to strive for? What will you believe in? What values will be important to you? In other words, who do you want to be when you grow up? We might describe it as a first taste of self-awareness. But what do we mean when we use this word? According to the dictionary, it means being aware of one's responsibilities. While according to philosophy, it is the ability to look at ourselves from the outside, to observe ourselves and our capabilities. Concepts so relevant to our lives that they have inevitably attracted the interest of the scientific community. Awareness could be seen, for example, as the way the brain tries to construct models of itself, or the way the mind reflects on itself. These are, in fact, still highly debated aspects. Nicola de Pisapia, associate professor in the Department of Psychology and Cognitive Science at the University of Trento, explains that from a scientific point of view, it is difficult to accept the fact that in our consciousness, we are a subject and not an object, because when we are aware of something, we are the subjects of that awareness. Even though there is no current theory that is universally accepted, according to neuroscience, the study of subjectivity in relation to the functioning of the human mind is certainly one of the most significant challenges of the coming years. But why is self-awareness so important in our professional dimension? What do we need it for? A first answer, the most straightforward, is that we are part of the same community. Being aware of who we are, our capabilities, and our role is central to everyone, from executive to specialist. A second answer, more complex but perhaps more interesting, is that awareness allows us to observe reality as it really is, to become aware of ourselves and our limitations, but also the qualities that make us unique. You may have tried piling stones on top of each other to build some kind of sculpture. You were at the beach or in the mountains. You were relaxing, and without thinking too much about it, you started putting them one on top of the other, trying to keep the pile from toppling over. Maybe some of you even tried to make, shall we say, more impressive compositions, putting the small stones at the base and the big stones on top, defying gravity a little. There, we could say that at that moment, without even knowing it, you were training your awareness with the art of stone balancing, a Zen practice that encourages concentration on the present moment, the here and now, and the search for inner balance. The more skeptical amongst you may be wondering what this has to do with our working lives, and the scientific point of view may surprise you. There has been a lot of talk recently about the mindfulness revolution, a phenomenon that came about thanks to an impulse from the academic world to understand how we adults can regain awareness of the here and now, the ability to be mindful and present. Actually, it is a skill that we all have as children, but which we risk losing as we grow up because we live in a world full of distractions, in contexts that push us to multitask and hyperconnect. However, this skill can be developed, actually recovered, with the help of mindfulness, which in fact consists of a protocol of exercises to promote self-awareness. In particular, Nicola de Pisapia emphasizes a very interesting line of research in the field of applied industrial psychology, which is devoted to the topic of mindful leadership. The mindful leader is one who adopts a leadership style based on the key principles of mindfulness, such as self-awareness, empathy, emotional and social intelligence. The core of mindful leadership lies precisely in this orientation towards self-awareness, which is seen as a tool for performing at one's best. Actually, self-awareness is a transversal concept in the company, cutting across all roles beyond the organizational chart. Because we all at work are inclined to highlight our merits, our qualities, our skills, while revealing the aspects about which we are a bit uncertain, does not come so naturally. Let me give you an example. Imagine that our manager has entrusted us with a project about which the company has high expectations. Perhaps because it concerns a new client, or because it involves a substantial financial investment. Everyone places great trust in us, but it only takes 2 meetings to realize that this assignment, although exciting, is also very complex. Perhaps too much so. And we are not sure we have the necessary skill set to tackle it. This is where we are torn. On one hand, there is our ambition, the desire to prove ourselves. And, on the other hand, there is uncertainty, the doubt of not being able to complete a task we have been assigned. How should we behave? You probably already know the answer. At work, opening ourselves up to new challenges and stepping out of our comfort zone is certainly a quality. But it is the awareness of our limitations that makes us better professionals, because it pushes us to fill our gaps. For example, we can learn to communicate better with the team by practicing empathy and active listening, or to build trust with dialogue and sharing. Over time, our skills may also be, shall we say, updated. They may improve along with us. We live and work in an ever-changing environment in which technologies change very rapidly, as do business strategies and the operational boundaries of our roles. If we are aware of a particular gap, we can fill it. perhaps by attending training courses, but also by interacting with colleagues whose experiences differ from ours. There are no limits to what we can learn. Our brain is a flexible tool that, as several studies show, can respond to our needs. For example, research done in 2006 on London taxi drivers showed that their hippocampus, which is an area of the brain involved in orientation processes in space, was particularly developed, more voluminous than that of bus drivers in the same city. The reason is that while bus drivers always follow the same route, taxi drivers have to continually train their sense of orientation within the city to find the best route for each ride. Nicola de Pisapia points out that this sort of training can be extended to any other mental skill. Depending on what we do day in and day out, we can stimulate certain brain connections, improve them, and even make them more efficient. Emotions can also become a tool for growth, just like skills. Let's start with an assumption. The emotional reactions of human beings are spontaneous. That is, they cannot be controlled. We cannot decide whether and when to feel fear or anger, nor can we make the deliberate decision that from now on we will be happy, period. What we can control, however, is how we deal with our emotions, learning to embrace them and turn them into opportunities for improvement. Let me give you an example by starting with a topic that is always popular in the workplace: promotions. Let's imagine that a managerial position has recently opened up, and we feel it is a particularly good fit for us. We have all the technical skills, and in recent years, we have improved our interpersonal skills as well. We maintain excellent relationships with colleagues, handle stress well, work responsibly, and never shy away from new challenges. In short, it's the perfect role for us. So we apply for it. We make the short list, but in the end, someone else gets the promotion. This can obviously generate quite a tangle of emotions in us. Before even managing them, however, we need to recognize them by learning to call things by their right names. Maybe it is insecurity, because perhaps it means that we are not considered as good as we think. Maybe it is anger, because we experience it as a personal slight. Or it could be simple, so to speak, disappointment, because we were almost getting used to the idea. In short, being aware of the emotions we feel is the first big step in managing them. Think about it. If we are angry and someone points that out to us, often the first thing we do is deny that emotion. No, what are you talking about? I'm not angry. Actually, if we performed a mindfulness operation and accepted that feedback by acknowledging that yes, we are angry, we would have already taken a small step forward. Nicola de Pisapia, however, points out that self-awareness alone is not enough. We must also implement strategies to regulate our emotions. This is a topic of much interest to both psychology and neuroscience. And they have identified an effective strategy in the so-called reappraisal, that is, the re-evaluation of the emotion we are feeling. We can in fact see our anger not as mere frustration, but as a drive, an impulse to find a solution. If we learn to rationalize emotions, we will be able not only to communicate them to others in a different way, but also to channel our energy towards something constructive. This seems to me a perfect definition of growth, of individual and collective progress. Of course, it is a challenging and arduous path, but one that we can all follow. For it is never too late to call upon our resources, to cultivate the talents and potential that make us unique. Getting to Know Us is a podcast series by Cora Media, sponsored by Tessia Group. Written by Alessandra Menozzi. Translated and narrated by Rosita Martini. Recording engineer, Luca Possi. Post-production and sound design by Cristiano Lomele. Production by Monia Donati. Text editing by Graziano Nani.